Hey everyone, welcome back. Welcome back. Apologies for the delay, but of course it's a big undertaking. I always like to get them out in one shot. In my mind, I'm like, I wish I could just do all the movies at once and it'd be done. I would get it up as soon as possible. But with how many movies I watched, it needed to be split up into four spots, four pots, and here we are. So I did previously the first half of the 200 movies, 100 movies down, 100 to go. We're going to cover 50 more in this installment, and then we'll round it out with the last 50, and we'll have the entire oh my god, the entire tier list together, right? So if you don't know what this is, go back to part one. I encourage you because I'm going through every movie that I watched for the first time in 2025. So whether it came out in 2025, there are a good amount of those releases, but obviously a wide mix. You can see just from looking at this all across the board. I mean, even look at the top. We got Jaws, It's a Wonderful Life, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Handmaiden, Begonia. Look at that lineup. I'm going off of vibes here. It's not like I thought about it ahead of time and I'm like, this is how it's going to be laid out. No, I'm just like, this is my final reflection. Throughout the year, I've been doing monthly rankings of these movies that I watched, just based on the month and what I watched then. But now it's just like recontextualizing everything, how I'm feeling in reflection, in retrospect. And so it's not perfect. It's not definitive. These are my definitive rankings from 1 to 200, but it's more or less trying to get the vibe correct. And I'm doing my best to do that, and again, like I said, with those rankings, it can change from day to day, from week to week, certainly from year to year, how I feel about one movie or another. But yeah, as I stated previously, these are all alphabetical. That's how I've been going through them. Just the easiest way to do it, through a tier maker. So if you have a certain movie you're looking for, keep that in mind. I will just say right now, we'll be covering the next 50 movies, which I counted out is going to be from Jim Henson, Idea Man, over to Perfect Days will be the last one. All right, so, and I'm assuming I got everything right. I did do some rearranging to make sure that, like, when I watch series, that they're kind of all there, more or less in the same spot and like chronological rather than just purely by the name at that point. So hopefully there's nothing weirdly out of place, but if so, whatever. You know. Already looking at this tier list, it's like, wow, there's some interesting takes here. I think first off, I think that I said I wouldn't be moving around much, but I do think Frozen, hit Broadway musical, shouldn't be like almost the top of A tier. It should be at least the bottom of A tier because there's some great movies in there. Some that I rated, look, I gave it 4.5 stars on Letterboxd, and a couple of these other ones ahead of it, I gave 4 stars, a bunch of them. But I just think it's a weird thing to compare, of course, but going off of vibes, like I said, it's not all perfect. I got some 3.5 stars in C, and I got some in B, all over the place. But more or less is how I'm feeling about them. There are a couple of documentaries up in S that I don't know if they'll stay in S or not, but we'll see, I guess. Without further ado, let's get into it. Like I did before, I'm just gonna keep it going to be consistent, and maybe I'll change it in the future if I feel like it didn't work as much. You let me know what you think, but I'm gonna read my Letterboxd review. As long as there's no spoilers, I'm gonna read my Letterboxd review to give some context of how I was feeling at the time and say if anything changed about that. But yeah, another thing up front, like I was just indicating there'll be no spoilers in here because obviously it's a random mix of movies. I want you to be able to watch without fear of spoilers at any given second for a movie you haven't seen. There's a lot of movies I'm sure you have seen, and a lot I'm sure you haven't, and I don't blame you. Some of them are weird ones, some of them are kind of like the award heavy ones that maybe you're either into or you're not. The whole spectrum is here. So let's go. All right. So first up, Jim Henson, Idea Man. As I've been saying, it's hard to place these documentaries. It really is, because I enjoyed almost all the documentaries I've watched this year. But I've also watched some really really good documentaries. I'd say this is a solid one. I'd say some people are like they feel like it's not as nuanced as it should be. Doesn't get into as much depth. But for me, as someone who had just watched all the Muppet movies, which we'll be getting into today, um, this was refreshing for me. You know, it's a lot of stuff I didn't know about Jim Henson. Just getting into him, I have I got for Christmas the Jim Henson biography, so I'm really just trying to get all in on Jim Henson now. And I even say that in this brief review. I've gained more and more respect for Jim Henson as I've gotten into more of his work recently. Loved this look into some of his bigger projects and his general outlook on life. Quite inspiring. That's There's multiple things I look for in documentaries. It's either emotional depth, which you see with some of the ones I have up towards the top. Come See Me in a Good Light, certainly. Black Box Diaries, certainly. Just compelling documentaries, you know, like Blackfish, which is an A tier. But on the flip side of things, I like if a documentary just can be inspiring in a creative level, you know, because something like Come See Me in the Good Light is, and Black Box Diaries, they are at times inspiring, at times gut wrenching, but like largely inspiring on a human level. But you know, you take a Jaws at 50, that's going to be more of the technical approach. And then you have Jim Henson Idea Man, which is like really like delving into a super creative man who's known as a creative, and has gotten so much recognition for it, obviously. And I just love that. So that's just a different shade of documentary for sure. Um, where exactly does it fall? I don't know. Let's see. The B tier is the lowest it'll go, and it's either B tier or A tier. I mean, there's not that many tiers, so it's gonna be B tier, A tier. I'd say maybe at the bottom of A tier. I think it's a great documentary to me. It's super inspiring. I just love getting into the minds of. I like getting into the minds of creatives. I also like getting into the minds of or getting more background on some of the greats or the best in their craft. So whether that be like even something like sports, which I don't heavily follow, those still fascinate me. So there's plenty of documentaries I still want to dip my toes into. All right. Next up is Jingle All the Way. When I initially watched this kind of passively at one point, it was on TV. I didn't fully tune in and watch it. A couple years ago, I thought I was like, oh, that was great. That was a really fun, wacky time. And then upon a closer analysis, I was looking at it closely because we were planning on reviewing it on Tarkaron, but we didn't end up doing it. It doesn't hold up as well under a magnifying glass, I'd say, but it's hard to be too mad at it. It's like it is fun, but it's just not like a fine piece of art, you know. I said when I watched on December 12th or December 17th, I should have said this for all these. It's so goofy, it's hard to be too mad at it. That being said, taking a critical eye to it really exposes a lot of flaws you don't notice at first. I'm not going to harp on it too much because I do think it's ultimately harmless and silly enough that it could find its way into a regular rotation despite it not being all that great. The ultimate resolution of where the Turbo Man action figure ends up did actually piss me off though. Yeah, that was so silly. But it's just a fun time. Like I wouldn't, even if I don't think it's one of my favorites, I wouldn't be mad at having it in the regular rotation each year. Like it's just one of those. It's a fun, lighthearted Christmas movie. Nothing too deep about it. But with that being said, it's gonna bottom out in C tiers somewhere. Where exactly? Can't go too much higher than this, honestly. I might leave it there. Yeah, I think that feels good. Yeah, borderline D tier, but a similar range of like a Crocodile Hunter in how I feel about it, and that it's certainly not beautiful, well crafted art, but it can be a fun time, you know, and it's ultimately harmless. Kill Bill Volume 1. You know, great shame of mine is that um I watched this and I didn't follow it up with the second part. I meant to get that in this year. I didn't want to separate it and watch it in a different year, but that's just how it shaped up. And then I know that The Whole Bloody Affair came back in theaters where you could watch parts of Volume 1 and 2 back to back. I just don't have the time to do that long of a sitting in theater, but I would have loved to see that. This is a lot of fun. This one is one I watched courtesy of a series I've been doing. It's been a minute now. I want to get back to it, where a random letterbox user decides what I watch. Where I basically go to a random letterbox user and then go through their four favorites, their favorite movies, and as long as it's available under $5 and I haven't seen it, then I will watch it. And Kill Bill came up that way, and that was fun. It's a solid film. I watched it on August 2nd, 2025. Basically, badass chicks fighting each other, the movie, and I'm not mad at it. The action is a lot of fun. There's a lot of really cool cinematography, and the directing is top notch. I expect no less from Tarantino. The score / soundtrack and sound design go crazy in this film. Love the aesthetic too. One scene focuses on Uma Thurman trying to wiggle her big toe. I expect no less from Tarantino. Lucy Liu was awesome in this film. Her aura is on full display here. The decapitation scene is some of this film's best work, and I just love even the visuals of the last fight scene in the snow. Looking forward to checking out the second part. August, man, it's been half a year now, and I haven't watched the second part. Put it on the docket for 2026. Now, Kill Bill is gonna be, again, not going lower than B tier. Certainly higher than most in B tier, at the very least. I'm tempted to slide her up to the bottom A tier again. That just keeps feeling right. I need to. There's stuff that really needs to be moved around. This is the problem with a tier list with so many things going on to it, is it's really gonna not shape up. It doesn't always shape up perfectly, because you kind of like, oh, this feels like a good spot, and then you notice 100 movies later that, oh, these movies ended up all the way up here on this tier, and it's just fucked up, but that's okay. Next we have Kiss of the Spider Woman. This is a movie I didn't know it was a pre-existing story that had already been done. I guess it was a play, and then it was another movie in the past. So I was going to go in blind. It was purely off of the buzz and potential of a Jennifer Lopez award buzz potential, and not that ended up not being a thing at all, but still, I'm glad I watched it. I didn't think it was amazing, but it had a lot of really good stuff in it. Let me see what I said back in October. I'm a bit conflicted on this film. On one hand, I enjoyed the relationship aspect of it and appreciated a lot of what they did with that. On the other hand, the musical numbers themselves didn't do much for me, though I did enjoy watching Jennifer Lopez. But not knowing much about this other than JLo's involvement, I was surprised to discover that her performance is pretty tertiary in the film, and the real focus is on Diego Luna and Tonatia's characters and their dynamic. That is the real heart of the film, and the musical side really just served as a plot device to complement that, which all in all is a pretty creative concept, but it wasn't perfect, and the resolution of the film did not satisfy me in the way I was hoping it would. Yeah, I think they really put on a great showcase. I didn't know who Tonatia was. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right still. It's just a one-word actor. I never knew them, but I think those two as the leads really drove this story. So it was funny that there was like buzz about J-Lo. She's like so not the thing you take away from this film at all, for me at least. Like, she was nice to watch, but it was really like a weird side thing that wasn't the focus, and their dynamic of the main two characters was the focus, and I think it really did work at times, and they made compelling performances, but ultimately as a product doesn't iron out to be a great film to me. I was ultimately torn on it when it came out between 3 and 3.5 stars, so that's more or less where I'm feeling, is in C tier, probably towards the top as a result. Somewhere around here. Dang, this is tough. How about right here, between A Different Man and The Apprentice? Let's break up the Sebastian Stans a little bit. Next up, we have Klaus. Klaus was a part of a string of movies I watched in December to try to hit up some of those classic Christmas movies. And I can't say I'm mad at it. It's a solid Christmas movie. It really is. It's like, pretty wholesome, polished, good animation, nice message. Hard to be mad at this one, really. And I totally get why it's like, I've heard it talked about as like a great modern Christmas movie because, you don't have those often. You talk about what are your favorite Christmas movies. You're talking about movies that are decades old at this point, and this one was a 2019 release, so it was one of those that kind of broke the mold. I said in December, good vibes, good message, good time. Really sweet animation style that goes well with the overall tone and sets this one apart. Really like the voice cast here too. Love that they pulled back the curtain on the lore of Santa and gave us the definitive origin story here. Yeah, they were really getting into the lore here. It was something. Uh, Klaus, come on up. Let's find where you should go. It's just an impossible task that I have here. It's gonna be top of B or bottom of A, as a lot of them have been. Or that's been my deliberation a lot. I would say top of B tier for now. Very top. Next up, it's the sensation that took over the nation in 2025. It's K-pop Demon Hunters. Yes. Um, it's solid. It is the best animated film I've seen this year, I believe. Well, not that I've seen this year, but that came out this year that I've seen this year being 2025. So, I have to revert my mindset to a couple months ago, but it's just a solid film and a crazy phenomenon. Some solid music in there, fun animation style. It's a good time. Let's see what I said back in July. I'd file this one away in the has no business being as good as it is bin, as well as the actively would have assumed it was garbage from a glance bin. Even a title like K-pop Demon Hunters doesn't exactly give me the highest degree of faith that a film would be any good. But luckily, through word of mouth, I heard that this was surprisingly good, and I generally agree. It's definitely very cheesy and over the top throughout, but tonally it all blends together well. As a K-pop fan myself, I have to say the music is generally pretty charming and catchy, and I'm impressed by how they nailed all the cliches and the vibes of K-pop and reflected that in the songs. That, combined with a fun voice cast and the overall energy, makes for a fun movie. A couple of really fun visual sequences as well. Yeah. Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. This was the biggest surprise for me because I remember seeing it on Netflix front page and just assumed it was like kids slop, And the kids ended up loving it, but it wasn't actually a slop. It actually ended up being a solid film, and I never would have expected that. You told me without any of the reputation, like just take a look at this movie called K-pop Demon Hunters. We're so used to saying it, almost as lost the luster of it, but K-pop Demon Hunters is such a goofy sounding title. It sounds so unserious. It's like, okay, they really phoned it in to try to scoop up some low hanging fruit K-pop fans here. But yeah, let's bring her up here. K-pop Demon Hunters, everybody. Why am I always? Is it just now? This is my safe space between bottom of A and top of B. Will I ever shift from it? I don't know. But bottom of A tier. Last Christmas. All right. Well, it's time to shift from it. Certainly, Last Christmas was a random kind of on a whim. I watched this Christmas movie because it's like, oh, it's Emilia Clarke. I love Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones. Pretty much it's the only thing I really love her from. But oh my god, this one is so hard to talk about without getting into spoilers. I'll just say like I come in thinking one thing about this film and it completely shifts everything I thought. It's such a weird turn of events that it's hard to talk about it without it. But I'll say nothing could have prepared me for the end of this movie. The added layer is kind of wild and one that I wouldn't have seen coming in 1,000 years, but it doesn't change the fact that most of the movie is still pretty unremarkable and often cliched. Scenes like the one where two construction workers happen to pass Kate at the exact moment she is changing just so they can catcall her come to mind. It has that Hallmark movie energy to it. The twist, although still pretty cheesy, definitely makes the film overall more compelling, even if that doesn't elevate it to being a super competent film. it definitely raised what would have otherwise been a 2-star lower film for me. That being said, it went up to 2.5 stars on Letterboxd, but it's tough because this is one that's like, yeah, it went from a super forgettable movie to like reframing things and making it okay. Like it left its mark. I'll probably remember it now for that reason. But for the most part, it does very much give off the Hallmark movie vibes. Generic Christmas movie, especially you go through Netflix, those Christmas movies. It's like, a dime a dozen type of thing. But and Michelle Yeoh's in it randomly in a weird role. But yeah, so it's one of those things. Probably right about there where it dropped. Below Happy Gilmore 2, above Final Destination 5, maybe somewhere around there. It could certainly slide down this. I could see stretching it to bottom of C tier, but I don't think it quite makes that. I think right now this feels right. Second in D tier for Last Christmas. Fascinating stuff though. It's another one like upon a rewatch, I have no idea how that one holds up. But Left-Handed Girl. Okay, this is one I gotta gush about a bit here because it's one that, I mean, unless you're into the film, following awards heavily, or are really in the thick of it, 90% of people are not going to know what this movie is. And so for that, I really want to stop down and say that this is an S tier film for me, I think. I love this film. It was all shot on an iPhone. Random fun facts that learning that after the fact, kind of like, okay, it makes sense. It wasn't like anything was distractingly bad, but it's like, okay, it makes sense for some of the shots now. But that being said, that really tells you right there that it's not, nothing's holding you back from making a good movie, really. You know, anybody could pick up an iPhone and film a movie like this is a really good movie. It's not just like, I think an okay movie out of it. I think I love this movie. And it's a film out of Taiwan. I know Sean Baker had his mark on it, and you can definitely feel that. I think he edited the film, but it was, in the running for the international features. Ultimately, didn't get nominated for the Oscars, but it was nominated for some other things. I think it's very deserving. I think some great powerhouse performances carry this film. And that's the beautiful thing with some of these international films, is that I'm not going to know 90% of the actors, and it's really puts into perspective just how much amazing talent is out there that you might never see otherwise. It's like so many people, like your average American, even just average moviegoer, they're so like averse to watching subtitled movies, international movies in general. Like they'll never branch out to it. It's just like what they're served. You're served the Fast and the Furious. You're served whatever it may be. But yeah, that's why I love getting more into film these last couple of years, because getting into these movies like these. I watched this in December. It was December 30th, one of the last movies that made the cut, that I watched in 2025. Great film. Incredible that this was filmed on an iPhone. That really goes to show you that some limitations are only limitations if you let them be. Well, you could tell it wasn't always perfect quality. That only added to the charm of the film for me. It didn't detract from the quality of the film itself. This film is effective and works so well largely because of how solid the cast for the family is. Shi Yuan Ma and Janelle Tsai both give strong performances, and Nina Yi is an adorable and talented young actress. What a charming cast. I was engaged from start to finish. Whether it was a monotonous scene or the most drama-filled scene of the film, I was into it. A sweet window into this little family's life. Glad I watched this. There needs to be more buzz around this one. This one, and one we'll probably talk about at the very end of this video, they kind of highlight certain films where it's like it doesn't need to be the deepest plot. This one does have compelling stuff in it, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't have to, on the surface, doesn't need to be the deepest, the most action-packed movie. Sometimes it can just, like, the rawness of it that can be the beauty of it. And similar to On Becoming a Guinea Fowl, but in a more effective sense as a movie, I think it still is another example of one of those where if you just kind of drop this and you took out some of the super, um, maybe some of the editing choices in it, you really could have convinced me this was a documentary, especially with the being filmed by an iPhone. That probably adds to it. You could have convinced me this was a real family that we're following. Things were filmed a little differently. Obviously, certain scenes really don't lend themselves to that, but as an overall vibe, it just captures, like I said, like a little window to this family, and you just really connect with it and instantly. And I mentioned Nina Yi. She's very young, like little girl. She's at the center of this whole story, and she kind of, there's a focus on her at times, and she's just great for it. It was some great casting from her to this older sister to the mother, like really great casting. And the one mother, Janelle Sai, it completely blew my mind when I learned that she was, I forget what her age is exactly, like early 50s, but just the fact she was in her 50s blew my mind. She looks amazing for age, like really young. Like I was thinking 20, like I was thinking 30s, honestly, like just off rip. Um, but yeah, that's besides the point. Just the main three ladies, the three different generations here, really well casted here. The Legend of Ochi is next. One I don't feel as strongly about. I'll say that. I like the vibe that it was going for as like a throwback to the 80s films of yesteryear, like an ET-esque movie. I get that vibe, and I love the little Ochi guy, little creature is very adorable. Definitely does. That's definitely great in that aspect, but overall, as a movie, there's a lot of stuff that didn't work for me as much. So here's what I said in August. The first thing I looked up upon watching this film is the idea that if you return a bird to its nest, the mother will reject it because it has human scent on it. Come to find out, this is just a myth. So it's interesting that this concept was so prevalent here. I almost forgot about that aspect. Absolutely love the practical effects and the adorable design of Ochi, but the film doesn't work for me much more beyond that. The plot is very reminiscent of How to Train Your Dragon, just much less effectively done. I felt the pacing was too slow, and with that pace, not nearly enough time spent getting us invested in the relationship between Yuri and the Ochi. We just spend some time with Yuri being an absolute menace at a grocery store and then a cute scene by the fire. So when it comes time for there to be more actual payoff there, it just doesn't land as well as it could have. And then I just didn't really care about the B plot with Maxim and the mother, though it's always neat to see Willem Dafoe, and Finn Wolfhard is just there. Some random casting. Willem Dafoe is great, obviously, but like his character is really not fleshed out enough for me to care. Finn Wolfhard is really just there, so it was very much didn't add anything to the film. But yeah, the practical effects is the biggest thing I'll give because I still love practical effects to this day. It just adds a certain level of charm to a film that is unreplicable. Is that a word? You can't replicate it with CGI or what have you. You just miss out on that. And so I give it credit for that, but it was a 2.5-star film for me, so it's gonna be in the D tier. This seems so harsh because I didn't think the movie was that bad, but just relative. I kind of gotta drop it here, I think. Below Captain America: Brave New World and above In Your Dreams. Rough. Next up is a little movie called Life of Chuck. Life of Chuck. Life of Chuck. The Life of Chuck, everybody. This is directed by Mike Flanagan. It's the entire reason I watched it. I will say this one I won't go into as much because I did do a detailed review over on Tarkaron on this movie. So if you want my detailed thoughts on it, check there. But here are my thoughts from the initial... well, not initial because on Letterboxd I go back and add the review after we reviewed it on Tarkaron. But yeah, I watched it back in June. Some stuff that I really liked here, and then some stuff that just didn't work for me as much. As much as I do like a Flanagan monologue, I do think it was a bit overdone here. And the pacing, especially in the first half, wasn't the best. But overall, there's a sweet story here and one that really makes you think, with a great cast to go with it. And that one busking scene in particular is something I will always remember this film for, at the very least. And if I could just bottle that up, I would take that with me wherever I went. It's just such a great scene. Like, in a vacuum, it was just solid, and I love the energy of that scene right there. But yeah, like I said, check out the review if you want more thoughts. But The Life of Chuck is gonna end up in B tier for sure. Like, that's the easiest B tier for me. You know, it's a 3.5 star, 7.5 out of 10 movie, and that's right in the money for B tier. It's just tough. I really want to say it's somewhere around, Die My Love and Elio. I think right between them, maybe above Die My Love, right around there for me right now. That's how I feel. So almost smack dab in the middle of B tier. Next up is Lilo and Stitch 2025. Look, I don't get this. Another one we reviewed in Tarkron, so I won't dwell on it too much, but the original Lilo and Stitch is very charming. It's nostalgic for me. I do love Stitch. I love the energy of that film. I rewatched that this year as well. And rewatching it right before this remake really shed some light on the fact that I don't think it was a great adaptation of the film. So I don't get the people that really like, oh, this is one of the good live action remakes. I'm not really there with it. The performances didn't fully work for me. And what they did to Jumba in particular is atrocious, really atrocious. Zach Galifianakis, first of all, completely nowhere near to the energy of Jumba, and then the hideous look that they gave him, it was striking out for me. Back in May, I said, while on the surface it is a serviceable enough family flick, I don't think the execution did the original film justice. They massacred my boy, Jumba Jookiba, and the Gantu erasure was insane. I wasn't a fan of the alternate way they resolved the story here, and there were some weird decisions made in editing. The original animation is inherently infinitely more charming to me, and though there are a couple of heartwarming moments in here, none of them hit the same, and nothing here is enough to elevate this past a thin adaptation. There it is, folks. So it was a 2-star on Letterboxd, so it's down here for me. I think it will be an F tier, but maybe only maybe top of F tier, really holding it down. I think that's right for me. Then a complete 180 to Little Women is next. Little Women. What a fun and charming movie. And I always keep watching these movies, and then after the fact, I'm like, oh, there's an older version too. You know, and like I still need to go back and watch the original Color Purple, and now I need to watch the original Little Women, especially in particular because this year I was starting to get into more of the younger Winona Ryder films. So like Little Women's one of those. I'm just curious on the differences in the adaptations, but this is great. This shows what Greta Gerwig can do and what she's great at. Stellar women-led film for sure, with like amazing actresses. Like, what an amazing batch we have here. I mean, Saoirse Ronan, incredible lead. Like, this showed me her power, and I did not know it. Like, for some reason, I haven't seen much of her, even though she's been nominated a lot. I need to go back and watch some of these. She's been named, I don't know about a lot, nominated a couple times, but just like highlighted a lot as some people's one of their favorite actresses. So, loved her in this. Would love to watch more from her. Emma Watson, all-timer. Great to see her here. Florence Pugh, awesome. I mean, that's a solid group of girls right there they chose for the three main girls, I should say. Of course, you have Timothée Chalamet here, who I didn't know was in until I watched it this year. So there's just some there's a couple fun surprises in here. So yeah, solid. Love the vibes. Here's what I said back in July. It really is quite a sweet and heartfelt film that brings together some of the best actresses today for some lovely performances. Their dynamic is quite endearing, and the film overall gives a cozy feeling. The costume design is well done also. You don't doubt for a second what time period the film is in. I'm not surprised that this is a personal favorite for so many. just got a cozy feeling to it. There is definitely some sad moments to it. There's a little more depth than just the vibe, but it's one of those still feel good film at the end of the day. It's like Christmassy, but also a period piece. It's like it's good, but the actresses sell it. Little Women, come on up. Come on up, Little Women. It's gonna be an A tier somewhere. Do 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 do. Somewhere like that. I don't know. Again, this could go all the way up because I have Little Women at 4 stars right now, but it definitely could be a 4.5 star movie. The reason Little Women, without knowing anything about it really, except for just on the glance, it seemed like it's about women and some sort of period piece. But the reason I really felt compelled to watch it was because I kept seeing it so much on people's Letterboxd their 4 favorites. And I'm like, what is it about this film that's just like so, it's up there for so many people in the top 4? And I get it. Next up, let's talk about one that I didn't get, and that was The Long Walk. This one didn't work for me. Maybe I need another watch and to get dialed in again, but this ended up just being okay with me. This is the one where I like kind of bucked the trend of everybody else. Every now and then you have those where you're really against the consensus, and this just happened to be one where it just didn't really work for me as much as it did for a lot of people. It ended up as just a 3 star for me. A lot of people were putting like 4 star, 4.5 stars, like it was one of the best of the year. Definitely wasn't that for me. It just felt too drawn out. It was boring. Like, I love a good dialogue heavy movie. I don't need crazy stuff going on, but it really dragged on for me. And obviously a part of that is intentional, but obviously I need to stop saying obviously. And back in September, I watched this in theaters in New York City. I said I wanted this to work more than it did for me. The 2 leads, Peter and Ray, are the heart of everything, but they were also the only 2 I was at all invested in. And the other characters were mostly pretty annoying. While I thought the concept was strong, in practice, walking and talking for almost 2 hours isn't as effective. There were quite a few deaths that were either over the top or heavily telegraphed, which didn't resonate with me at all emotionally. And the film ended in about the only way I imagined it would. Didn't quite live up to my expectations. There's a distinct Hunger Games aspect to this, just not quite as compelling. That's really how I feel. I don't get the hype. It didn't resonate with me emotionally, which is the big thing I look for. And I'm open to it. I'm never like, I'm not guarded. I'm not looking to not feel when I watch a movie. I love it. But yeah, so it's gonna be a C tier movie for me. I'm gonna put it between Crocodile Hunter and Dogman. That's incredibly insulting. I get it. I'm sorry. If you enjoyed the film, I do not mean to be insulting. But that's how I feel. Look back, everybody. This is a 2024 animated film. One I had heard some good things about, for sure, and so it compelled me to watch. This was early on in 2025, right? Yeah, February 2025. I said, first of all, really like the unique choice in art style and how it seems to present as if the main characters themselves made the film. I liked the film was confident enough in its messaging that it didn't need to overstay its welcome. The film does its best work in that final act, where it really does a great job personifying grief in the form of this parallel universe. It takes a bit to fully process what is really going on, and it never 100% gives you the whole answer, but that was what I took away from it, at least, and I think that is the way to take the most away from it. This one I'm eager to rewatch as well, because I do think it's one that, well, my takeaway was that it was great. It was just like, I don't know how great, for me personally. And again, that question is it the top of B tier or bottom of A tier vibe? Of course, is the question we have to ask ourselves, all of us. And here we go. We're going to do it right now. For now, I think towards the top of B tier, maybe around here between Dungeons and Dragons and Hunchback of Notre Dame. Maybe. It's so tough. The Lost Children. This, I will say, is a documentary that didn't work for me. It was the concept that pulled me in, and I'll tell you the concepts. The description has in Letterboxd. After a plane crash, 4 indigenous children fight to survive in the Colombian Amazon using ancestral wisdom as an unprecedented rescue mission unfolds. Is that compelling or what? That's compelling to me. Without going into too much details, I'd say just the documentary doesn't work in that regard because less of the focus is on the children and their fight to survive. And I get that because the footage we have is from the people looking for them and whatnot, but just from a storytelling aspect, I wasn't as invested in like the people responsible for searching. It was much more compelling the idea of just how courageous these kids were and how fearless they were to survive in those elements. But so in July, I said, with the description of this doc, I was really expecting a film focused on the lost children's perspective and was disappointed when we barely got a snippet of that story at the end of the film. Instead of focusing on the children's resilience and how they managed to survive, the doc was almost entirely from the rescuer's perspective, and even within that framing, often deviated into topics that were a lot less compelling than the story of these lost children that I watched for. The last 20 minutes of the film were easily the most compelling, and the fact that they even survived is miraculous in itself, but I feel like the documentary does the story a bit of a disservice. Yeah, I feel that way still. This is one I'll definitely will be lost in time, especially in a year where I watched so many great documentaries. I'm just not, I'm not feeling it. Bottom of a D tier, dare I say? Sorry. Here we go. It's Love Hurts, everybody. The critically acclaimed 2025 film. It is one of those films where you kind of forget it was out that year by the end of it because it's very early on in the year. I caught up on it later, but it was a very early release. Probably around Valentine's Day, if I had to guess. But I watched it in October. Here's what I said. It's a surprising amount to say about it. Look, it's not a good movie, but I will say that I definitely enjoyed it a lot more than a lot of other films that I've given this rating to, which is the 2 stars. I just have a hard time rating it much higher than that. It's really quite dumb, but at least the action / choreography is silly, stupid fun. Most of the rest of the film leaves a lot to be desired. Props to them for randomly trying to make this age gap couple happen, but also anti-props for not bothering to have them flesh out any sort of chemistry or even a compelling relationship for them in what is marketed as a Valentine's Day movie. Wasn't really feeling the love, mostly just the hurts. In one scene in particular, there was a glaring jump cut that was hard to ignore, so the editing certainly has its issues here and there, but it's a decently fun movie as far as bad movies go. Ke Huy Quan is always good to see, but he's not enough to save this. Also, that import store was a cool backdrop for the action in the end, just a cool aesthetic here in general. Also, there was this was also that was not a Hitler mustache. I feel like they're trying to gaslight me into thinking that a regular mustache is a Hitler mustache. Yeah. If you know, you know from the particular scene where they say that as a joke. Ke Huy Quan, as much as I love, like I said, he wasn't enough to save this movie, and even so, it's probably not his best performance. You have Ariana DeBose here, who fortunately has had a slew of bad movie releases since her Oscar win for West Side Story. And this is a weird mix that they put together here. Like I joked at the age gap couple thing, but really there was no chemistry there whatsoever. It was just not a good match, if that's what they wanted to do. So not the best performances from anyone involved, really. But like I said, for a 2-star film, I enjoyed it more than most in that same category. It's just objectively not good. It's just maybe a more of a so bad it's good type of situation, But it's gonna be in D tier, at least, if not F tier. I'll give it D tier even though it doesn't fully line up with how I rated it. I'll put it right here above The Lost Children, borderline above these next two also. Yeah, F it, right? F it. Madam Web. Ooh, here we go. This one I watched purely because of how bad its reputation was, known for being perhaps the worst movie of 2024. I had to watch, was that intrigued. And I ended up loving it. No, I ended up fully understanding it. 1.5 stars, but I wasn't. I was almost disappointed that I didn't feel passionate enough about how bad it was. I watched this in April. I wanted so badly for this to enter so bad it's good territory, which I just referenced with Love Hurts, but it just got too dull too often for that to be possible. There were just so many nuggets of bad writing, bad acting, and bad directing sprinkled throughout, but I still wanted more. The directing overall was pretty bad, but some shots and scenes are particularly egregious. That whole action sequence that comes in the last 20 minutes is truly an all-time bad one. Dakota Johnson was pretty bad, and the writing made her even worse. That villain guy was awful. It was quite awful. The rest of the supporting cast was mediocre or serviceable at best. No one was really going to stay afloat with this material. Now just bring her to the MCU, you cowards. I genuinely think that would be so funny if they did that. Obviously, they're not. But if they just randomly were like, Madam Web is entering, we're getting all these weird. This was like a Sony one. So just like how we're getting, the Sony Spider-Mans in there, let's get Madam Web in. It would have been so funny if they like didn't know how bad it was going to be ahead of time and already were working it in. It would hit, unironically. It's an all-time bad film. Just how low do we go? On principle, I think I'm like going down. It's like, oh, okay, lower than these. No, there's no way I'm putting it below the there's no way I'm putting it below the Electric State. I just, on an enjoyment perspective, there's no way. It's way more enjoyable than the Electric State. Clown in a Cornfield, yes. Honey Don't could be better than Honey Don't, honestly, but probably will end up right there, which is generous for Madam Web. I get it. Some really bad acting. The villain guy, I don't know the name of the villain guy, but his performance was an all-time bad one, and it weirdly ADR'd his voice in certain parts. It's so obvious, and it's just like, whoa, it's jarring. It's jarring. Some jarring stuff in this film, in general, I'll say. Okay, Mamma Mia. Here we go again. My. No, we're not talking about Mamma Mia. Here we go again. That's another one I was hoping to get the sequel in, but it wasn't really available in streaming. I would have had to pay to rent it. I was like, maybe I'll wait till next year. And Mamma Mia as a film, I didn't end up loving in the way I was kind of hoping I would. I'm always down to love a musical. I go into a musical wanting to have fun, and that's it. But it just ended up being okay. Just okay to me. Here's what I said in September. Look, I don't think it's a particularly great film, but I won't deny that it was a lot of fun. Meryl Streep and Amanda Seyfried are great here, as are the rest of the cast, really. Just a bunch of actors seemingly having a lot of fun with it. There are a couple of fun songs, and I'm not going to be mad at some Dancing Queen being thrown in, but other than that, the music's not really anything to write home about. I know, obviously, the focus is for a particular artist in that film, so, maybe that's more of a testament on my thoughts on their music, and neither is the plot itself, really. The concept is, of course, a recipe for plenty of funny and awkward moments. If you want a fun time, you will likely find that here. But beyond that, it's pretty service level, and the resolution is more silly than satisfying. It's not the kind of film that has me emotionally invested in the characters in any substantial way. So it's just a fun time, not much depth there for me, and some things kind of hold it back from being a great film for me. But I was surprised when I went on Letterboxd and just saw super high ratings, like some people with 5 stars, 4.5 stars. And I mean, you see that with every film. Obviously, there's people that love some films even that are bad, but I mean more so in the circle of people that I follow that tend to be like these more film buff types, and even them, there was some really high scores. So maybe I'm an outlier here, but I do think it's a C tier film. I could grow to love it though. Like, this is the thing with film. I love film. It doesn't always have to be the best film. Look, in Mamma Mia, movies like Mamma Mia and Honey, this is where I dropped it for now, are both movies I love the vibe of. I love the energy, and I love certain aspects, certain actresses involved. But I just don't feel like they're S tier films. And doesn't mean I can't grow to love them in a different way. That was my instinct, was to put it there. I'm trying to see if that feels right. Yeah, that might be good. That might be good. I could definitely go higher. Let's keep it there for now. Like I said, they kind of feel similar, similar genre, similar category is the vibe I'm feeling. Maria, 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 Maria. Let's talk about Maria, starring Angelina Jolie. Actually, it's not really. This movie's not really anything to write home about. I think visually, it's got a lot beautiful shots to enjoy. Angelina Jolie is a delight to look at. She just has this great aura about her. Even if you go watch interviews that she did after the fact, like she just has a quiet confidence about her that really comes through on the screen, especially this who she's portraying here. She's playing an opera singer. I know it's based on a real Maria Callas, who was in 1970s in Paris, and it explores some interesting things here. Definitely like an Oscar Beatty type film, I'd guess. I would say it just didn't fully work for me. It wasn't. It was just kind of boring to me at the end of the day. It's really what it boils down to. Angelina Jolie delivers an elegant performance, but I couldn't help but be wholly uninterested in this dry proceeding of events. Visually, there's some pretty stuff to keep your attention, but nothing remarkable enough to offset the lack of intrigue or anything compelling for me. Rough words, some tough words, but it's valid for Maria for me. Maybe it's just too high art for me. Maybe it's just one of those things. The life of an opera singer is just not relatable to me. Maybe. Um, mm. Where I have trouble is like then I look at D tier, which is where I put other similarly rated films, and I just don't feel like it should be down there. And I also feels completely wrong to put under Jingle All the Way, just on principle. So let's go right there for Maria. Marriage Story. Marriage Story is one you might have heard of, starring Scarlett Johansson, Adam Driver. I love this film. I was like, I'm always just waiting. Like, when's another great film gonna pop up? Come on. I love this film. It could very much be up here at S tier. I think Howard could be up here. Let's just F it, all right? Marriage Story is up here somewhere. Here's what I said back in February. This is a beautifully effective film. I love films like this one and Past Lives, which, although wholly different in content and approach, both offer refreshing perspectives on love. On display is not only the pain of a divorce, but an exploration of everything that comes with it. The heartbreak, the resentment, the legal proceedings, the custody disputes, and ultimately an appreciation for the love that started it all. The film is so effective at making you understand all of the mixed emotions of the process that you often feel them too. There's some great writing here and some truly gripping scenes that make for such an easy yet difficult watch at the same time. You understand both perspectives and appreciate the hardships of both. I loved how the film approached this idea and ultimately how it decided to wrap everything up. Wow. Yeah. This is one, like, I would, I'm going to say this a lot. I'm sorry, but I would love to rewatch it to really cement it, but I love it. This is like the kind of film that I really love. You know, the exact energy that I kind of look for in any films that really resonate with me is that emotional resonance. It's taking a compelling concept. This one, in particular, is a grounded concept that I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. I can't relate to, but I'd be curious to hear their perspective and if it hit even harder for them. But it just seems to handle it with care. At the same time, maybe a more mature approach than maybe people take in a lot of divorces. You know, it's like showing an appreciation for what it was, rather than just like complete misery and resentment that sometimes can brew from it. But I just think it's a great film. Great film. Marty Supreme. Marty Supreme is the last film that I watched in 2025. I watched it on December 31st, right at the buzzer, to get in, and I think this is the one that sealed the deal, made it that 200 movies, if I'm not mistaken. Could have been one right after it that made it 200, but either way, a great way to end the year. Unfortunate that, like, there's all this Kevin O'Leary Trumpy stuff now that makes his performance kind of less special. It's almost like he's playing himself in the movie, as Mark Ruffalo joked. But that doesn't change the fact that Marty Supreme was an excellent film, in my opinion. It's a roller coaster of a ride that it takes you on. Just constant chaos, really. There's a similar energy to One Battle, which we'll also be talking about in this video, but it dials up the chaos even more than that, and it's so funny because on the description you would never guess it. Marty Supreme, a young man with a dream no one respects, goes to hell and back in pursuit of greatness. Well, okay, that's a little more ambiguous, but the fact that the movie is just about a professional table tennis player, that's really what I mean. It's like you would never expect all of the highs and lows and everything you go through in this film. So that's the beauty of it. It's like lightning in a bottle. Oh yeah, I forgot there's some Josh Safdie drama going on too. So unfortunate, a little bit of marketing towards the tail end of this film, but it's one of my favorite films of the year. Of the 2025 releases, it was easily in my top 3. I think it's number 2, but just oof, it's a stellar film. This is what I said. This was a lot of fun and not at all what I expected. So I'm glad I didn't look into this more before watching. I was expecting some kind of biopic, and it's not at all that, and it's so much more. A real chaotic energy that propels the movie forward so well and makes it so there's never a dull moment. Great cast. Timmy's still in top form here, and the supporting actors all give great performances as well. Definitely one of the best of the year. Also, random cameo role from Penn Jillette. Some weird casting choices, which is like, there's some inspired casting here. So I like that aspect of it. Odessa Zion's great. I wish she got nominated for an Oscar. But it was a tough category for her. But she brings a great energy to the film. Plays off of Timothée Chalamet so well, who delivers an incredible performance after a string of incredible performances from him. It's just another one, and perhaps his best. So he's the likely winner of the Academy Award. We'll see if anything changes here, but this is an excellent one. Perhaps another S tier. Perhaps. It's so hard to quarrel with, like, where exactly do these S tier 2025 films match up with the others? But I didn't realize I had Begonia that high. Begonia is in my top 5-ish, I think, for 25 releases, maybe. A great score too. Oof, it hits. Such a fun energy to the film. The biggest compliment you can give to a film is like I said, never a dull moment. There's never a point where it's like dragging on or it's like, all right, let's yada yada this. Like, it really feels purposeful with its pacing and editing. So I put it really high there. So I'm not confident in anything, but that's what I'll go with for now. Materialist is up next, another 2025 release that I don't feel quite as highly about. I was hoping to, but it is a Celine Song directed film, which is, I believe, only the second after Past Lives, which was a previous, from a couple years ago, one of my favorites of the year, if not my favorite of the year. I love Past Lives, and it's another one of those emotionally resonant films that takes a concept grounded in reality and really elevates it. Materialist has elements of it, but doesn't really ever touch the brilliance of Past Lives. And while it's tough, everything is like a comparison to that, because that's such a great film, so it's hard to really, you set the bar so high with that. But it's hard not to, Here's what I said. It's actually wild how conflicted I am about this film in my mind, and clearly how divisive it has been in its reception as well. At its core, I thoroughly appreciate the messaging of the film and am completely enamored with it. But in execution, some elements don't perfectly align. Dakota Johnson, Pedro Pascal, and Chris Evans are all good in their roles, but it's hard to deny that it is difficult for Chris Evans to be truly believable in this role. If you see the film, you'll understand why. Additionally, some of the writing is a bit much to me and not completely grounded, though at the same time, a good portion of the writing is also supremely effective. It's like so the variance is crazy. Some of the interactions feel a little surface level, though some of that is intentional. Outside of that, I really appreciate a lot of what the film does. It is apparent that Celine Song has a clear vision for these sorts of films. While this comes nowhere close to the level of past lives, her passion still shines through, and I was captivated nonetheless. I definitely found myself relating to John on multiple levels, even if I can't relate to Chris Evans. And there was one moment in particular that was effectively moving and got me emotional, so that is certainly worth something. So while all the pieces didn't work perfectly for me, I did still enjoy the film as a whole, and will be there for whatever she does next. Yes, Celine Song, I'm fascinated with what she does, and like I said, even if it doesn't hit as hard for me, I think the elements there are like sort of strong understanding for certain aspects that are important to her, and that makes me compelled to watch more from her if she whatever she does next. So Materialist for me is ultimately an ultimate B movie. How high is a good question. Um, it's so hard. Again, I'm so conflicted coming in to reviewing that movie on Letterboxd, giving it a rating. Like, how did I really feel about it? How does it sit with me? I still don't know to this day, and it's been a few months now. For now, I put it right below Frankenstein, above Fantastic Four. Oh look, Pedro Pascal synergy moment. Perhaps the best Dakota Johnson film of the year, though, that I watched. Next up is Mean Girls, not the classic, but the 2024 musical remake. That's right. That's what we all asked for. LOL. I don't even know why I bother sometimes. If I didn't feel an obligation as an enjoyer of films to see a movie through once I start it, I probably would have bailed on this one not even halfway in. Ooh, that's heavy. There were a couple of decent songs with a cool, almost rock opera vibe at times, but all in all, I was annoyed by how unnecessary this movie was. I can't think of something I would want less than a Mean Girls remake with just Tim Meadows and Tina Fey reprising their roles. Following a new cast of main characters along almost the same exact story beats, except make it a musical and inject modern social media into it. I enjoyed Tim Meadows and Tina Fey, but it was unusual seeing them essentially performing the same roles again, just with different students around them. It's so true. It's weird how they tackled this overall, and there was nothing that really compelled me to genuinely want to see how it resolve. This one is so forgettable in my mind. Like, I completely forgot any of the songs in this musical. Apparently, there's a musical. I don't remember any song, not a single song. Sorry. So that's a tough one. D tier. Um, let's put it below The Legend of Ochi. Memoir of a Snail. This was an Academy-nominated film for the 2025 Oscars for Best Animated Feature. And this is, holy Toledo, is it weird. I love this film in all its weirdness. It's not all of what you expect when you look at it on the surface. Wow, not what I expected at all. When I tell you I had no idea what the vibe of this film was going in, I'm telling you I was shook when they started talking about masturbation and showing snails having sex. That's just a little tease. I knew I was in for a weird ride, but then it subverted my expectations again because I didn't expect it to be so heavy either. It gets real dark, and there's some actual meaningful lessons to take in between all of the absolutely bonkers stuff unfolding on screen. And I love this animation style, not just the stop motion, but the particular style they went with. Yeah, I love this film. I do. We reviewed this on Tark Run too. I picked it for a monthly movie night after I watched it, so I got to watch it twice last year. And it further affirmed my appreciation for it. It's like an 8 out of 10 film for me, but at the same time I love it. Just wow, it really sets itself apart. It's so wholly unique. Like when you look back in your mind on animated films, like I'm never gonna mix this up with another film. Like it's distinctly Memoir of a Snail, and nothing else really is gonna be like, it's like this. No, you know. It's got the memoir. It's got the Wallace and Gromit animation style almost, but nothing else in common with it. It's an A tier for me. It's right there. It's right up there with Dang, it's tough. I was gonna say it's around Goofy movie, but then I was like, I didn't feel right putting below F1. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to place. Next up, we have The Menu. Come on, banger after banger. The other Menu is another one that's like maybe an 8.5 out of 10 movie that I love. You know, I don't think it's a masterpiece, but I do love it. I love what it did. The vibe is so cool. It's funny because people describe it as Midsummer esque, and I hadn't watched Midsummer before this, and ironically, Midsummer is coming up right after this, a couple movies later, because I did watch it later that year. But I totally get what they're saying when they do that, because there's just weird stuff. There's like an unsettling undertone when you get in, and this weird stuff unfolds. I just say, well, what a ride. I can't say I'm entirely satisfied with how everything was resolved, especially the final scene, but I can't deny that I was hooked. That's largely due to some great performances. Ralph Fiennes commands the room brilliantly, and Anya Taylor-Joy is fantastic as our protagonist, and Nicholas Hoult is amazingly grating. I wish we got some answers as far as some character motivations and the logistics of everything, but maybe that lack of answers adds to the menu. A really major kudos to how beautifully the food itself was filmed in this. It adds a lovely, ironic contrast to what is actually unfolding, and damn, it does look like a well-made cheeseburger. There's a scene with a cheeseburger, and it's just like looks delicious, like mouth-watering, and now it makes me want it now. Like unironically, it's just filmed really great, and there's some great little cards between certain scenes, like presenting another piece of the menu, and it's just like nice and tastefully done. It's like a nice contrast to the overall vibe of the film. It's good to go in and just let the ride take you where it's gonna go. It's a wild ride. Bring the menu up here. So because now I have 4 stars bleeding into the top of B tier and the bottom of A tier. It's a 4-star film for me. I look and I think of it so fondly. Ralph Fiennes is killer in this, but maybe top of B tier for now. That's tough because I could easily be bottom of A tier. Again, the sweet spot. Next up is Mickey 17. This is a tough one. All right, Mickey 17, everybody. This is a Bong Joon-ho directed film, which is he's known for Parasite, which is like perhaps one of the most well-received films in history, especially in modern history. You know, it's just so revered by everyone. It's one of those just like up there with The Godfather, in that like every person, almost every person gives it like straight 5 stars, like fully glazed film. But so Mickey 17 is not that. Is much more flawed. Not as polished, not as tight with the writing and the plot. I will definitely say that much. No doubt about it. I ultimately ended up liking it, but only just. You know, it was borderline liking it and okay, you know, good and okay vibe. But I did still, I think the concept is so cool. I think it's based on a book, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure. But just the concept alone is strong. And it's far from a masterpiece, and there are some characters that didn't resonate with me as well as others, but I enjoyed the ride here. It really is a compelling sci-fi concept that is executed fairly well. Some of the plot points, especially in the ultimate resolution of the film, were pretty by the numbers, and as a result didn't hit for me in the way that it felt like they were intended to. But as a whole, I enjoyed more than I didn't. I really enjoyed Robert Pattinson's performances. I wasn't sure how I would feel about the voice he used, but it's actually really effective at completely changing how you perceive him. At a certain point, it feels like you aren't even watching Pattinson anymore. Naomi Ackie was a welcomed presence. I thought she added a lot to the film as well. It was nice to see Steven Yeun here. Mark Ruffalo and Toni Collette as the over-the-top irredeemable villains weren't standouts for me necessarily, but they served their purpose. The film really could have used some deeper messaging to sink your teeth into, because there's definitely more that could have been done with this concept, but for what it went for, I did enjoy Mickey 17. Did not expect Mickey 17 to provide a little challenger's moment either. So yeah, for me, it's going to be very close to C tier, probably very bottom of B tier type situation. This again, I really enjoyed some aspects of it, but it's not one that'll probably stick with me long term. Midsummer. Florence Pugh, becoming one of my favorite actresses. Watched a few of her films in the last couple of years. There's still at least one more of hers coming on this ranking, probably in the last part, but she's just a lot of fun. She's a great actress. In this film, not so fun, but yeah. Midsummer, you might hear from his reputation, just the vibes that it gives off. It's another one of those movies, though, if you can go in with as little knowledge as possible, you're probably going to benefit from it. It's kind of the unraveling of the weirdness that's going on. Like, that's part of the charm of it. I would say at first, my initial review, I gave it 3.5 stars. I've moved it up to 4 stars since, still teetering, but ultimately garnered more of an appreciation for it as the months have gone on. But here's my initial reaction. There's a lot to appreciate here, certainly, and Florence Pugh is always a delight, but it's clear I'm not quite as high on this film as a lot of people are. Maybe because I watched something like The Menu before getting to watch this, it didn't have quite the same shock effect on me as it did on others. I loved the whole cursed vibe and the slow unraveling of everything throughout the film. Danny's damaged relationship is at the forefront, and that obviously ties in thematically with pretty much everything. And production-wise, it's really hard to complain with an unsettling score to accompany some expertly composed, even more appropriately unsettling shots. Glad I finally got to watch this one. It really feels like one I would appreciate more upon a rewatch. Regardless, I definitely enjoyed it, just not on the one of my favorite movies ever level. It's still not one of my favorite movies ever, but I think that rings true. I didn't rewatch it fully, but a lot of times instead of rewatching films, if I'm not able to watch it with someone, then I'll watch reactions to it, and that's kind of like, again, it's not perfect because you get kind of a highlight reel of the movies. You don't get the full sense of like some of the flaws sometimes, some of the more boring scenes, things like that are cut out, but still it's fun to glean more positive things from it, and I definitely did. Probably right there with The Menu. Let's put it side by side. Interchangeable. A Minecraft movie. Don't get me started on a Minecraft movie. This shit's ass. F tier. Probably won't go too low with it, but definitely F tier. I don't. There's something wrong with you if you're one of the people saying, "Oh, it's pretty good, actually." It's a kids movie. Like, stop it. We need to wish better for ourselves here. Did review this on Tarkaron as well, so check that out if you want a detailed review of a Minecraft movie. God help you. Thought this was pure slop. I just wish I had the degenerate brain rot experience so many others seem to have, because I was left with a pretty unremarkable experience instead, and a movie that felt like it added nothing of substance but to make a quick buck. Plain and simple. There's no substance here. A pure cash grab, that's what I got from it. It's not like, to me, it didn't feel like a beautiful dedication to the fans. It didn't feel like, oh, this is a great kids movie. It felt like slop to me. So yeah, F tier. Miracle on 34th Street is another one we were planning on reviewing at Tarkron, just didn't end up happening, kind of fell through last minute. But my thoughts on it were, it is a 1947 film. Classic Christmas, one of the classic ones I didn't watch, so I was planning on watching it anyway for December, trying to hit the big ones, but I wouldn't put it at the top of my favorite Christmas movies list, but I did enjoy it for how different it was from the standard Christmas movie. Edmund Gwenn is great as Santa, but I was instantly taken aback by how much of a star young Natalie Wood is as Susan. She stole the show for me. I go into this a little bit, some random Tarkron video, obviously, so you won't be able to find it, but I went down a bit of a rabbit hole after this, because Natalie Wood, I was curious what this little girl went on to do, because she just felt like the scene stealer in this film. And it blew my mind. Sometimes these things happen with these random films you aren't fully in tune with, that like just blew my mind that she played Maria in the original West Side Story. That blew my mind by itself. And then there's this whole backstory where she was like suspiciously, she died like in her 40s, and there's still weird things about like the circumstances of her death. Like, was there foul play and some like weirdness around that. So like, oh, that was like, damn, definitely cut too short, like a life cut too short. She had so much potential as an actress, and clearly she went on to do some significant roles too. But still, as the little girl in this film with Santa Claus, it's just still a very charming performance. Edmund Gwenn won Best Supporting Actor, or is it lead actor or supporting actor for Miracle on 34th Street as Santa Claus. So, wow. It's a quaint film. It's a quaint film. It's an easy B tier film, but where in B tier exactly? I don't know. I wouldn't say too high. Like, not much higher than this. Maybe even, like, let me put it right between the two technical docs. The Monkey. All right, another 2025 release. The Monkey from Osgood Perkins. You might know him. He did what was it, Long Legs, which I heard was received pretty well. Haven't seen that one, but yeah, this one just didn't work for me. I said, yeah, this movie's pretty stupid, and I know it's aware that it's stupid and that is the point, but it just doesn't work for me at all. It's one thing to be self-aware and have a movie that doesn't take itself too seriously, but if the comedy doesn't hit, then none of it really works. The twin brothers are both unlikable and not too enjoyable to watch in their own very different ways. And while I find a few of Petey's and miscellaneous side characters' lines to be fun in a cheeky way, those are not nearly enough to carry the concept because the large majority of the dialogue is simply not landing. I appreciate what Osgood Perkins is going for, but the execution just isn't there for me. Yeah. It's one of those easily just didn't work for me. Like, and I've heard some other film critics say this. It's like, well, if it didn't work for me, it might work for you. It's one of those things that it works for some people, but this just didn't work for me. It was too much, and none of it was funny to me, which is really the biggest crime, and one that is clearly like it's trying to be that. But yeah, maybe right here under The Legend of Ochi, perhaps. Mrs. Doubtfire. I almost forgot I watched Mrs. Doubtfire this year for the first time. Robin Williams is an actor I love, and I've always loved my entire life. And but surprisingly, you've already seen The Birdhouse was one role of his that I didn't see, and a good thing I actually watched it after Mrs. Doubtfire because it's like a good follow up because in Mrs. Doubtfire, Robin Williams is the cross-dressing character at the center of everything, and then that's ultimately why he didn't do the that part in The Birdhouse, and that ended up going to Nathan Lane, and that worked out perfectly. But Robin Williams is on one in Mrs. Doubtfire. That's an all-time comedic performance for real, and I get it. It's so much fun. Was kind of surprised by how fun this was. I love Robin Williams, so it's wild that it took me this long to watch one of his classics. I enjoyed it for the wacky antics of it all, as well as for the genuinely heartfelt story of fatherhood and the struggle of divorce that is baked in. There were plenty of laugh-out-loud moments, but there's a nice message underneath it all, too. Love how the script is so creative with all the different situations Daniel is quick changing in, and all the chaos that ensues from those scenes. Also really fun and clever how they even weave in Daniel's skill set of different voices to be an actually actionable skill here. And that happens to be right in Robin Williams' wheelhouse as well. Really fun performance from Robin Williams. He absolutely shines here. Yeah, it really highlights what he can do and why he was such like a lovable actor and comedian. So it's probably gonna be somewhere in A tier for me, somewhere around here, maybe here. I don't know. And again, I sit here. I put The Birdcage in a random swing in the S tier, and now I don't know if that's right because I don't know if I feel that much highly about The Birdcage versus Mrs. Doubtfire. There's like similar energy. I think it might just edge out Mrs. Doubtfire for just the messaging and what it represents, but yeah, I'm not sure if that much of a difference in tiers will be. I don't know. All right, these next string of movies, I'm gonna try not to dwell too much on. They're the Muppet movies. I watched every Muppet movie, so there's a bunch of them here. It's 8 movies altogether. Right? Yeah, 8 movies altogether. I just want to say overall, I loved my experience going through the Muppet movies. These are all the 3 theatrical releases specifically, so not all the straight to VHS, straight to DVD ones. There's a bunch of other weird ones out there that I didn't watch. It's just these mainline ones, just to keep it simple for myself. Even that was still a big undertaking. 8 movies, no joke. So I watched it over the course of a few months in 2025. And my biggest takeaway is I was surprised by how consistent that is as a series. Just straight up, I was impressed by that. I had came in with not much in terms of expectations, and yet it smashed them. It smashed them. So let's start with the Muppet movie. This movie rocks. I've been meaning to dig more into Muppet stuff for a while now, so I'll definitely be going through the rest at some point. I was certainly quite impressed. The charms of the different characters are really put on full display here, and there's a fun musicality to it as well. The puppetry is amazing, the voices are incredible, and the humor is borderline Naked Gun style. This movie does not show its age at all, a real treat. So this, I think, is going to be the one Muppet movie that I give the distinct honor of being an S tier. All right. I don't do that lightly. Like I said, I love the Naked Gun, the classic Naked Gun films, and this, somehow, a Muppet movie I never knew, really has similar comedic stylings. And yeah, fell in love with the Muppets from here. I was like, all right, I'm in. This is all I needed. Next up is The Great Muppet Caper. I don't think it's quite on the level of the first Muppet movie, but it's actually a damn good follow-up. This one was more music focused, and the music doesn't hit quite as hard. But damn, was that scene on the park bench iconic, and the comedy is still great. Just a fun time. So The Great Muppet Caper is one of my next favorite Muppet movies, honestly. It was a great follow-up. It's going to be an A tier somewhere. I'm just I'll put it there for now, above F1, below Mrs. Doubtfire. Next up is The Muppets Take Manhattan. Man, it's so funny, the random shit the Muppets are put through. And I think I highlighted it here. I don't think this one is quite on the level of the previous two, but it's still good fun. It honestly feels like you can't go wrong with the Muppets. They can be put into almost any scenario, and it makes for great entertainment. And this was only after the 3rd movie I said this, and they get thrown into literally other story concepts right after this. So it proved it even more so. But yeah, this is more a B tier Muppets movie for me, where it's still a fun time, but not quite on that level. So maybe somewhere around there, around Cinderella, Frey Waka. And then, as I said, we had the Muppet Christmas Carol, which is often touted like separate from the Muppets series as like one of their the favorite movies people have for Christmas movies. Absolutely, completely. It feels very different from the previous iterations, but this is a solid one. This really is just a wholesome ass movie. The original tale is too, really. This is a pretty faithful telling of the story with a Muppet flair thrown in. Naturally, not as many laughs per minute as the previous Muppet movies, but the humor is infused in a fun enough way that both the core story and the Muppet comedy can be enjoyed in tandem. The Muppets being cast in a lot of the pivotal roles in this story just works really well for whatever reason. And Michael Caine is unironically pretty brilliant in this. Love the approach he took to the role, but most of all, I love Rizzo, the true star of the film. A really cozy movie. I can definitely see why this is beloved by so many people. So this was a 4-star for me, so it'll probably end up being top of B tier. Damn, this is tough. Alright, somewhere around there, around Gremlins. Then we have the Muppet Treasure Island. Not my favorite of the Muppet movies, but still a lot of gold here. Aside from Tim Curry, all the human actors are pretty horrendous, so I'm glad we got less of them as this movie progressed. I'm most impressed by the fun and varied puppets added in here. It felt like there were more here than ever before, and lots that I hadn't seen. Treasure Island is a classic story that lends itself to countless new versions, and retellings, but it still is wild that a Muppet version exists. It's fun seeing the Muppets up to their usual antics. Loved the Rats side plot as per usual. And they did big, fat, ugly, bug-faced, baby-eating O'Brien. It's supremely dirty. If you know, you know, right? Sorry to speeding through, because I know if you're into Muppets, you are. If you aren't, then it's just like, okay, sit these next few minutes out. So I'm trying not to take too long. But yeah, not my favorite of the Muppet films, I'd say. Which is funny because, like I said, Treasure Island is a great story. I actually read the original story for the first time the same year. And Yeah, it's interesting. So I got to see the direct adaptation. I kind of might want to keep it there. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's above or below Manhattan now, though. Actually, all right, I'm gonna let it rock there. It feels right. Next, we have Muppets from Space, which to me is easily the worst Muppets movie, and it's just okay. So for that to be the bottom of your 8 movie franchise, that's impressive. That's a consistent series. Not quite on level with the other Muppets movies so far, but it was at the very least ambitious and distinctly different from the others rather than an installment that plays it safe. It's just not quite what I look for in my favorite of the Muppets movies, but there are still definitely memorable and funny moments throughout. A couple of cool characters like Pepe the King Prawn and Rentro getting added into the mix too. Some really funny off the wall gags that are much appreciated as well. Just happens to be a fairly cliche plot with a Muppets coat on it, so nothing too spectacular on that front, but it is cool that we have a movie with Gonzo as the protagonist like this. Also, Sam Eagle staring at a girl's abs slash midriff was crazy. Yeah, that was just random out of pocket scenes in these Muppets movies, legitimately. So it's a C tier for me. Um, Crocodile Hunter vibes, right there, below the Long Walk. Next, we have the Muppets. There's so much Muppets. 2011 Muppets. I quite enjoyed this one. It does a great job of reviving the concept with an actually fairly compelling narrative reason to do so. Some really sweet callbacks to previous Muppets work, and some solid songs in here too. I actually think Jason Segel and Amy Adams are the weakest part of the film. Not that they're necessarily horrible or anything, but anytime the movie focused on them, I just really wanted more Muppets. I do think some of the Mary slash Gary centric songs are genuinely not good though. A criminal lack of Rizzo the Rat throughout the film too. He was always a highlight of all the other films, so that is surprising. Walter's a great new addition though. He complements the movie well, and the cameo roles are all generally fun too. I love the money reveal at the end, by the way. That was going to be something I took issue with, but they turned it on its head and it made for a great punchline. So it's another solid Muppets film. I need to like go through and do a definitive ranking of these Muppets movies because for now it's just going to be a mess. But for me, I put it maybe right here below Hunchback. And lastly, for the Muppets, Muppets Most Wanted, which I think gets a little bit of a bad rap at times, which I don't think is very deserved. I think there's some fun stuff to it. It's not perfect, but I still quite enjoyed this. It's not too far off from 2011 Muppets for me. Celebrity cameos were a bit excessive, but I enjoyed most of them. Ricky Gervais and Tina Fey were nice additions, and I enjoyed seeing Danny Trejo and Celine Dion for what it's worth. Diddy cameo definitely took me by surprise, though. That was a jump scare. Overall, I thought the songs were solid here, and while you don't get quite the same amount of opportunities for the Muppets to shine, I still enjoyed this more plot focused installment, and I quite enjoyed all of the Constantine shenanigans. Like, damn, these sound like deep cuts when you talk about the plot of Muppets Most Wanted. So that's another B tier one. Again, not bad with the Muppets, not bad. Somewhere like that, I don't know, arbitrarily. I quite enjoyed it though. My Neighbors, the Yamadas. It's so random. I had a list of all the Studio Ghibli movies I haven't seen, which is a good amount of them, and I just randomized them, and this is what it gave me. One of the most un-Ghibli-esque movies of them all. A completely unique art style to most of them, really sets itself apart. It's very quaint in comparison. Like there's no central plot in the same way. It's almost like a compilation of shorts, but I found it to be quite charming actually. Fascinating. This is a Studio Ghibli film that I've literally never heard anyone talk about, and naturally, it's perhaps the least Ghibli film there is. Visually, it's completely unlike anything Studio Ghibli have done, and even content-wise, feels incredibly distinct. This essentially feels like a collection of shorts centered around the different little antics this small family gets into. None of it is out of this world. All of it is pretty grounded and involves some combination of the family members, with not many characters beyond that. I admire it for daring to do something different, and with its fun animation style that I really enjoy. At the same time, it's kind of hard to deny that its lack of a solid narrative structure and its family-oriented adventures being more understated keep it from being a top-tier Studio Ghibli film. But it really is a cute film with a fittingly cute score, which I do appreciate for what it is. That I definitely agree with still. It's quaint, it's fun, but it's just not going to be in the level of some of the best Studio Ghiblis, that's for sure. So it's another B tier one. Um, Probably right around the above Charlie's Angels. Next up is My Old Ass. Crazy name for a movie. It's so great. This one took me by complete surprise because it ended up being one of those emotionally resonant films for me and one I was super impressed by. I think the concept is compelling. It doesn't it takes itself seriously, but also doesn't take itself too seriously at times. It's a fun vibe. I think the lead actress, who is a very young actress who I hadn't seen really anything before, is awesome. And really the main thing that drew me in was just like it had Aubrey Plaza playing alongside her in certain scenes. Aubrey Plaza was a lot less in the movie than I thought she was, but she still adds a lot to the film. I loved watching her. Such a sweet movie. This is when I watched in January. I saw Aubrey Plaza and watched it just for her, only to realize she's in the movie very briefly in comparison to Maisie Stella as Elliot. Don't get me wrong, Aubrey Plaza's performance was excellent in this film, and I loved every scene with her in it, but I just had no idea she was only in a fraction of the film. That being said, I'm grateful that Maisie Stella got a chance to shine because she's obviously a young actress, and I hadn't seen her in anything before, and as a result was delightfully surprised by her performance as well. She really was excellent as the lead and gave Elliot a lot of personality. Really heartfelt story that certainly brought some tears to my eyes. Such a cool concept for a movie which takes advantage of such innately human thoughts and feelings. It's really one of those movies that'll get you being contemplative. It's like it's kind of profound in certain ways, and it's a movie called My Old Ass at the end of the day, so it's so funny. Um, it's A tier for me for the longest time. It was one of my favorites of 2024, and it just felt weird. I was like, is it really that good? There was one scene that was so goofy. There's one scene where she like gets high, and it's just like so over the top goofy for me, but it's not too serious. But A tier, certainly right around there, maybe. I don't know. This is tough. The Naked Gun. All right, so I've had, ironically, I now have it covered up. In the other two installments, I had the Naked Gun poster here, and now it's covered by Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong. I was gonna say that the ironic part also is that you know I had that little poster up, but it's not like I love the movie. I thought it was a good movie, and it's a good new addition to the Naked Gun series. It didn't do it a disservice. It wasn't insulting to the original series, and it was like kind of surprising in that way because I had such low expectations. But I was like, hey, if you're bringing back a deep cut like Naked Gun, maybe you do know what you're doing, and maybe you will show it the care it deserves. And they did. I think they did. Still not on the level of the original trilogy for me, but the original trilogy is something special to me. So this was a fun time. I was delightfully surprised that it at least lived up to the spirit of the original. Some jokes didn't quite land, and I'd say probably more than was the case with the original, but I still found myself laughing and enjoying the large majority of it. I dog it points for completely recycling a couple of jokes from the original trilogy, but at the same time I give it a bit of a pass since it has been literal decades. Pamela Anderson is great and Liam Neeson is okay, but noticeably not as great as Leslie Nielsen. Tough shoes to fill regardless. But overall, it's funny and it's really, really stupid, exactly as a Naked Gun movie should be. All right, so it's a B tier movie, The Naked Gun. It's a good time, but nothing crazy. All right. Maybe I'll just leave that there. Maybe I might just leave it there. So that's okay. Next up is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. This is one that did work for me. Whereas previously I talked about A Christmas Story, which was like known as a Christmas classic, that didn't quite work for me on that level. This one really did. Glad to finally cross this one off the list. This was a fun time. Totally get why it's considered a Christmas classic. Consistently good vibes throughout, fun writing, and charming performances. Honestly, this could have been rated higher, but it does peak early. I don't enjoy Cousin Eddie quite as much as some of the other characters, and once he enters the picture, he quickly becomes more of the focus, so the movie isn't as strong for me. But still funny and plenty of memorable moments from start to finish. It's just that the first act in particular is so solid. So yeah, that's gonna hold it back from being like A tier for me. I think I still gave it 4 stars, so it's gonna be towards the top of B tier still, or at least decently high in B tier stuff, maybe around there. But yeah, I still think highly of it. It's a great Christmas flick. Nickel Boys. This is one I fully admit I am due for a rewatch on. Like legitimately. This is one where just look, there's certain things that definitely didn't work for me. I think it could have been a lot more emotionally resonant than I allowed it to, maybe just because of the things I disagreed with. But I definitely didn't really like the directing. And the cinematography, while it was creative, I didn't really agree that it needed to be an Oscar nominee for that. Like people said it was robbed for that. But it just didn't work for me as much. You know, they did a whole like POV perspective and certain things that were so on the nose that didn't really work for me in that way, on a technical aspect. But I think maybe if I honed in on it, I would be able to appreciate it more in a different sense. But yeah, so this is one like this was like the top of the top for people's 2024 films, and it was just not for me. It was just okay. This is an example of a well-made film that just didn't resonate with me as much as it probably should have, and that I might appreciate more on a rewatch. It's a tragic story, very much a reflection of many lived experiences of young black men in such boarding schools in the 60s, and that's the greatest tragedy of it all. It really transcends the medium. As far as the film itself goes, there were some cool, clever things done with the direction in particular, but it was a little too cute for me sometimes. I've never been a fan of POV shots in films, and while I totally understand why they went with the POV style for much of the film, it just didn't work for me as much. This is very much a film that makes its filmmaking techniques known and wants to put them on display throughout. I just personally could have done with more subtlety in order to properly connect with the film. That might just be a personal thing for me with Nickel Boys, but I'm sorry to the Nickel Boys fans. I mean no disrespect. I really don't. But it's going to be C tier for me. I kind of have no choice. It's kind of like I saw the TV Glow, where I super respect what it's going for and what people appreciate about it, but just not quite on that level for me. So right around there, maybe just below it. Next up is Not Just a Goof, which is weird because, you know, I put a Goofy movie so much earlier, but now we're getting to the documentary, which is basically pushed me to watch a Goofy movie so I could watch the documentary too. It's a great documentary. Even in this long lineup of great documentaries, I kind of forgot this one was one of them. It's great. It really highlights a lot of what makes a Goofy movie special. It definitely gave me more of an appreciation for it after watching this, and which is something I love about these kinds of documentaries too. It gleans on the cultural aspect of it more than anything, and it like the impact the movie had on a lot of people, and the fact that it was like known as a massive like flop at the time, and to now like know it's received so well with a cult following. That was really nice to see for some of the people involved with making it. Really heartfelt documentary. It's great to see how fondly some of the people responsible for making it look back on it and appreciate how it has become a hit with the fans after the fact. The documentary really feels like it was made from the heart, and it just oozes that. As someone who had just watched the movie for the first time, really, it definitely gave me even more appreciation for it, and it's quite touching how impactful it was for so many people. Yeah, it's a great documentary. I think I would actually throughout the year, I was actually putting it in my mind with a Goofy movie similarly in the rankings, you know? If anything, it might be better than a Goofy movie, honestly. I'll put F1 right here. All right. On Becoming a Guinea Fowl. See, I was referencing this earlier. Just for some reason, I thought it was on the ranking, but I know I referenced it before in another monthly ranking too. Yeah. So what I give On Becoming a Guinea Fowl credit for is the realism of it. The way that I say it does really feel raw and so real and very documentary-esque when it's not. That's the biggest credit I give to it, because overall I wasn't a huge fan of it. As a film, it was tough, narratively speaking, and just tough watch, especially given the ultimate resolution and given the trajectory of the film. It does make for an unsatisfying movie experience for me. While I don't view it as one of my favorites, I give it bonus points for Susan Chardy's compelling performance, as well as such a perfectly naturalistic portrayal that it feels like it could be a documentary. touches on something very important, but just doesn't fully come together as a film for me. So that's the biggest thing for me as a film and an overall product. It doesn't fully um, end up how I'd like it to be compelling, but it has elements of it that are just so good, and that performance is good. It's just, yeah, it's gonna be another one of these C tier films, unfortunately. To be right around there. One battle after another. I mean, if you know, then if you've heard me talk about movies at all this year, you'll know this is my favorite 2025 film as of now. And I still have a good amount to watch, so it's not locked in. But of the ones I've seen, which is 77 films at this time, I have it as number one. Whoa, didn't mean to throw it that high, but maybe right around here. It's still very high in the grand scheme of things. 200 movies, maybe too high. Recency bias is a thing, so years removed will add to that. But I love this film. Like I said, with Marty Supreme, similar things. It's a rare case where it is exactly as long as it needs to be. The pacing is perfect. Never feel like it's dragging on or I'm checking the time. Like, can this end already? It's so well done, and the performances are great. It's a great cast, some really fun writing. It's just a fun story. It's just a really fun time. Some really cool directing. In a similar way that Sinners has that one scene that really sticks out. Hamnet has that one scene that really sticks out in people's minds. One Battle has one of those scenes. It's purely from a direction standpoint. It's the one on the road towards the end, which you know if you've seen it. It's really cool using perspective in a creative way. An excellent score too. There's just a lot of great elements. Like every aspect of the film is really well done, and that shows. It really is a ton of fun and thoroughly engaging throughout. Leo delivers an all-star, really fun performance, and the supporting cast is stellar as well. Teyana Taylor makes her presence known immediately in a big way, and Chase Infinity gives a really strong debut performance. Sean Penn and Benicio del Toro both bring two distinct energies to the film as well, so stellar all around. This is definitely at the very least one of the best films of the year, and though there's certainly a case for it being the best, I would really like to watch it again to fully solidify my thoughts on it and where it stacks up against the rest. But no doubt an excellent film. And I actually did watch it again, and I felt the same way. So there you go. It's in the pudding. It's one of the films of the year. Like, there's some great international ones, and then there's a bunch of international ones I haven't gotten to, which are really great things about too that were probably up there. But out of these like main ones seen in theaters in America, often like you got the big ones that are One Battle After Another, Marty Supreme, Sinners, Hamnet. These are all the heavy hitters here, and it's right up there. It's been number one since it came out. Like, it's been pretty much like the front runner since it came out, and it hasn't really shifted. So it's strong. It's one to see if you want to keep up with pop culture movies, you know. One of Them Days is another one which is fun, complete 180, because this was super early on too, February in 2025. It's a fun comedy. It's a solid comedy with Keke Palmer and SZA, which I didn't expect anything from that. You know, anytime you throw like a singer, a modern music artist into a movie, especially when you haven't seen one before from them, it's like there's some trepidation there, you know. But then you do have ones like that come out and they surprise you. So SZA just fit really, like their little dynamic was great for the film. It's a fun little dynamic duo comedy movie. Nothing really to write home about plot wise, but you're really there for the good times and laughs, and it was an enjoyable ride for me. Not a film with too many layers, but that's okay. I enjoyed what we got, and it's always refreshing to not have a super heavy movie too. So just simply a fun time. Was never going to be in the list of my top favorites, but it was going to be, it was just a fun theater experience, no doubt. So B tier somewhere. This is interesting because I'm tempted to put it above Naked Gun and stuff too. I wasn't even thinking that. And above Mickey 17. Is this how I really feel? It's interesting feeling it out right now. How about that? something like that. I don't know. Between The Friend and My Neighbors the Yamadas, I don't know. Paprika. Paprika is a weird one, and I love weird. I have a lot of respect for weird. I do, but this is a tough one because it's one of those. Again, I feel like I really need to rewatch because a lot of it's like I'm not even really sure what they were going for here. It's that kind of that much of an oddball type movie. I feel like I wasn't in the headspace or environment to fully appreciate this for what it was, so I think this will benefit from a rewatch. It feels like there's more to glean from this film than I did, but with that being said, I did enjoy the ride. Particularly in the back half, it just went all out with creative visuals and some clever stylistic animation choices. Frankly, it felt like one big acid trip, for better or for worse. Plenty of memorable visuals, but that hand running through Paprika's skin particularly stands out in my mind. That was gnarly. And it needs to be said, the recurring parade theme is a really cool track that so uniquely fits the film. Yeah, that's one that'll stick with you as soon as you hear it. It distinctly fits, yeah, like I said, the energy of this film. Like if you just play that sound or that song, and they just tell you that's the vibe. No, you're not in your mind. You're not gonna imagine Paprika. But then once you see Paprika, it's like you can't separate the two. It's a solid soundtrack. And then like I said, some really crazy visuals, sequences sometimes, and it's just such weird stuff that I'm not even sure what they were going for with certain things. Like, what are we supposed to be taken away from it? Like, I don't know. Sometimes it's really it's weird in that way. But I enjoyed it. I ultimately enjoyed it. So that's why I say I feel like it only could go up from a rewatch. For now, I'll put it down here somewhere above Frankenstein the Anatomy Lesson and below Miracle on 34th Street. The last one for today, 150 movies in, is Perfect Days. This is the one I referenced when talking about Left-Handed Girl, in that sometimes like there's beauty in a movie that doesn't have that much like of a crazy plot, crazy action-packed scenes. This is not that at all. This is actually very much like you're going through the motions, and it's almost intended to be monotonous in certain ways. It's like actually a clever film, and I think it's done well. But this film has a real sweet and contemplative energy to it, which I appreciate. A nice tender performance from Koji Yakusho complements a strong direction that really hones in on the minutia of the day to day. Really emphasizes appreciating the small things and a nice cozy vibe for much of the movie. This is one that's, again, it's hard to sell. It's like, what am I even saying? What is this movie about? What is the description? In a world of fleeting moments, find the beauty that lasts. So that's a nice little tagline. That's kind of the messaging there. But it says, Hirayama is content with his life as a toilet cleaner in Tokyo. Outside of his structured routine, he cherishes music on cassette tapes, books, and taking photos of trees. Through unexpected encounters, he reflects on finding beauty in the world. It's just such a nice message, isn't it? Right there. Isn't that already beautiful? Almost brings a tear to your eye just reading that. And then imagine seeing it told through film in a really beautifully shot way, and beautifully directed and tenderly acted way. And it's like, it's that idea that's kind of comes through in the film. I really enjoyed it. It's up there. It's a 4-star film at least, so towards the top of B tier, if not A tier. I'm gonna put A tier. I'm just gonna keep going up. Wow. Yeah, sometimes movies surprise you with just how much you actually enjoyed them. But just when I think back on this movie, I think of it very fondly. In the same way, I think very fondly of Left-Handed Girl. There you have it. 50 more movies to go. Here you go. If you want a sneak peek of what's to come, here they are, the last ones of the alphabet. All right. Some truly amazing movies this year, and it's tough. Obviously, a lot in B. You know, it takes a lot to get me to go into 4 stars, 4.5 and higher. Like, it does. So 3.5 is already a big sign of approval for me. So B tier and up already doing wonders. Even though some of them, Final Destinations, they're 3 stars. There's some sneaks in certain tiers, but that's just off of vibes. but still a lot of amazing films this year. And I thank you for watching another installment of this. I know it's a lot. It's a big undertaking. Each installment is hefty in itself. So imagine one 8-hour video with all 200. But all right, we're gonna finish this thing up in the coming weeks, and I'll see you then. Okay. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel for more videos on all things film, television, reality TV. And until then, we'll see you.